This chord comes from the end of the Mystic Circles from the Rite of Spring by Stravinsky. Let's check it out.
Keith Horn's Chord of the Week.
Okay, listen to this one. I mean, that chord is like, here are the notes. And whenever you hear it, whenever I hear it, I can't discern what the notes are. I tried to transcribe it. I've tried to hear all the notes from looking at the score and tried to fish them out, and I just can't. All I can really hear is this top note and this bottom note, and then a bunch of stuff in the middle. And it's really not far from that, really. It's this. And I'll talk about it, but there's more to it than that, actually. Now, here's an interesting thing about this chord. It shows up in the 4-hand version, which is the original 2-piano version that he wrote as a blueprint, which he often did before he scored it out completely for full orchestra. And as you can see here, it's a really strange voicing. Right, he has the left hand playing this, and he has it spelled B sharp and E sharp here, and then he has the right hand playing this with a C double sharp. And who doesn't love a C double sharp?
I don't love them.
So I've respelled it to accommodate the enharmonics to make it a little easier to understand. And what's interesting, I find, is looking at the piano version, you see the left hand that has the G flat, C, and F. The right hand has the E flat, A flat, and D, and they superimpose on top of each other. It gives you a little insight into what he was thinking about this chord, because it makes no sense when you look at it. Not to me. It's not an F sharp chord. It's not really a D chord. But if you look at it intervallically, look at the left hand. A tritone in the bottom, ascending, and then an ascending perfect fourth. The right hand is a descending tritone, and then a descending perfect fourth. It's a mirror of the left hand. So this is his original version. And he hits that chord 11 times. I think he wasn't thinking in terms of anything pretty. He was thinking just shapes, right? He has these two intervals, and then he mirror images them here. Tritone and fourth, tritone, fourth, tritone, fourth, and mirror image. Now there's a way to think of this chord that I think is a little easier, because if you look right in the middle, we have an A flat triad in first inversion, and if we include this G flat, it's an A flat 7 in third inversion. And if we start from there and add the other two notes, we have, now it's an A flat 13, we had the sixth of A flat, and it has a D, which is a sharp 11 of A flat. So we could think of this as an A flat 7, 13, sharp 11. So an A flat 13, sharp 11. Now, the purpose of that is not to think of it necessarily in terms of, well, if it's an A flat 7, then we must be in D flat. It's not about that. It's not about making this into a dominant chord. Although, if we want, we can play with that, and we probably should, for fun.
That does sound fun.
To come up with an easy way, at least for me, to conceive of the chord, right? Because just looking at it makes no sense until I try to find some order in it, which is I look for the triad, and then that makes it a 7th chord, and then we got two other notes. That fits into A flat, and that's sort of a borrowed note from A flat 7. So if I think of it as A flat 13 sharp 11, that's helpful for my brain to have a starting point in order to build that chord, so I can turn it into an exercise, which I'm going to do for you guys, and make it part of your vocabulary. Now, this was a ballet. So in 1913, Stravinsky had a reputation. He had already done Petrushka, he had already done The Firebird, and this was his third of his big 3 ballets. But this was not what they were expecting. And it was chords like this that really kind of threw them. They didn't know what to do with these kind of sounds, because this is a piece that is not pretty, but it's beautiful. Here's a modern version of what the ballet originally looked like at this part. Now Now, this is the point in the story, in the ballet, where we have the mystic circles, where we have the circle of the virgins that are spinning around in a dance. And at the end, we have these 11 notes, this chord that hits 11 times violently. It signifies that they have chosen their virgin for the night, for the season. I mean, it's basically The Bachelor. Right, except The Bachelor, they fall in love, and in here, they don't. She gets sacrificed, killed at the very end.
Spoiler alert.
Now, I didn't know any of this when I first heard it. To me, it just sounded like heavy metal, so this is a proper version for me. Now, one other thing about this chord is, I mentioned the piano version because we have this 6-note chord. The full version, if you look at the timpani, and there are 2 timpani players, and each one of them are playing 2 notes. So if we look at the timpani parts, we have G flat, A, E, and F that are added to this chord, that are not in the original 4-hand 2-piano version. Now, this G flat and the F in the 1st and 4th timpani part are in the original chord, but he also adds an A and an E. So when the chord that you hear in the full orchestral version is not this, but this. Right? Like, not pretty. Muddy. It's like, once you get below middle C and you start clustering your voicings together like this, even just this, it gives this dark, muddy vibe. And obviously that's what he was going for here. But this chord here, I mean, I got to build it in pieces. Like, that's the chord. I mean, that thing is covered in mud. That is like, there's so much mud. That's like a hog on a hot day kind of mud. I grew up in Michigan, and that's like a F-150 on a Saturday morning after a rain, just covered in mud because we went out in the field and spun around doing some donuts. Kind of mud. All right, let's take it through some exercises. So the first exercise is to take this A flat 7 in 3rd inversion and then just add the 13th and the sharp 11 and build the chord like that in 2 pieces. 1, 2, and then take that around the circle of the 5th, starting in A flat. And the next exercise is something a little different. I alluded to it earlier, and I decided it would be fun to actually try this chord out functionally, right? If this is something that resembles an A flat dominant sound, and if we're thinking of it as an A flat 13, sharp 11, well, A flat is the 5th of D flat. So we could just do this. And then we have a nice D flat major 9 sound, right? And so here's a case where we could take a Stravinsky voicing and turn it into something used in functional harmony. Now, all I did here was take the outer 2 voicings, outward a half step, because here we had this A flat 13 sharp 11, and all these chord tones in the middle, all those tones are part of the D flat major 9 sound. So I'm going to attempt to do that a few times around the circle. I haven't practiced this one very much, but I hope you practice it more than I did. So, and in D flat. Oh, did you hear that? Anyway. try one more from E. Let me build it. So this is one of my favorite chords from the Rite of Spring. It appeals to that visceral metalhead thing that I grew up playing guitar, listening to Metallica and Megadeth, and just feeling that sense of just aggression. And I just love that sound so much. And whenever I hear this part of the piece, I get so pumped up and excited. And it just leads into more exciting things after this. So thank you for watching. Thanks for listening, and happy practicing.
Yeah. Who did? This beat. Yo, who did? Yo, who did? Who did?